Be interesting to see.
And then do you usually have like a hey?
Okay.
Copy that. Is that how you talk? On
Sure.
the radio?
Yeah, you can do it. You can go ham radio.
Might be able to perform to the best of their abilities, be able to perform without injury. And we ask that that will help the players and the spectators to be able to practice good sportsmanship. Father, we thank you for the atonement of thy Son. Thank you for all that it blesses us with. We say this in the name of Jesus Christ.
Good evening. Welcome to the Smith Fieldhouse on the campus of Brigham Young University. Tonight, #1 ranked BYU faces off against number 14 George Mason in the last game of the AVCA Showcase. My name is Jason Shepard, joined by former BYU men's volleyball player and current BYU women's volleyball assistant coach Dave Height. Dave, thanks for joining me on the broadcast tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you, Jason, for inviting me.
It was a pretty entertaining day yesterday as BYU pulled off the victory over at Loyola Chicago in 4 sets. And this is going to be an interesting season for this BYU Cougars team. I know last year was not the season that they wanted. 17-10 was the final record for them. A little bit of a rebuilding year, but this year, #1 ranked, and I believe that's warranted.
Definitely. When you get a player back like Ben Patch, that's going to kind of lift everyone's spirits and including the other coaches around the country as far as the outlook of this team. But this team is just very, very physical, good at all 3 pins. So I think it's definitely warranted. You
mentioned Ben Patch, and he made his return last night after his LDS mission and then spending the summer with Team USA. He led BYU last night in that win over the Ramblers with 21 kills. And you talked about it. Having a weapon like that at your disposal is huge.
It really is, and he touches 12-3, which is just phenomenal. I mean, that's just, 2 feet and 3 inches obviously above the rim, and what he does is incredible.
BYU tonight getting ready to take on George Mason. George Mason lost their first game the other night. So they lost to UC Irvine. The starters for tonight is funny. We were talking so much about Ben Patch. He's actually not going to start tonight. It will be interesting to see if he finds his way into the lineup. But your starters for the BYU Cougars tonight. At middle blocker, #1, 6'9" sophomore Bryce Jarman. Your libero tonight, 6'1" sophomore Eric Stykes. He wears #8. #10, outside hitter Jake Langlois, the 6'10" junior. Also, Brendan Sander will be the outside hitter today. He wears #15. He's a 6'4" sophomore. #16, and this is the player that's getting the start in place of Ben Patch tonight, 6'10" sophomore from Germany, Tim Daubert. He did play 1 set last night. His only stat was a service error. Michael Hatch will be your middle blocker. 6'8" senior out of Agora Hills, California. He wears #23. And #4, Leo Durkin will be BYU's setter. He's a 6'4" sophomore out of Las Vegas. What do you make of Ben Patch not getting the start tonight?
Sometimes it's tough to know without being inside Coach Olmstead's head, but usually when something like this happens, it's beginning of the year. The coach kind of wants to see some of his other players kind of get some playing time just to see how they do. It's nothing more than, giving some of his other players some reps. With that being said, Tim Daubert he would start in other places, other programs, and he's a very good player out of Germany, so they're in good hands still.
For the George Mason Patriots, who, by the way, as I mentioned, 0-2 under first-year head coach Jay Hosick, they will start at outside hitter #1, Radoslav Popov. He's a 6'2" junior from Bulgaria. #6, Dom Edgley will be the middle blocker. He's a 6'5" redshirt senior from Virginia Beach, Virginia. There's actually quite a few players from Virginia Beach on this roster. If you don't know where George Mason is, they're from Fairfax, Virginia. Number 11, Christian Malias, is a 6'2" junior. He will be the outside hitter. He hails from Orlando, Florida. He's kind of their big hitter, their big gun. Number 18, Bryant Eckstein, the 6'6" freshman out of Virginia Beach, will get the start tonight at middle blocker. Number 20, the outside hitter, Jack Wilson, the redshirt junior, will get the start. He is 6'6" out of Midlothian, Virginia. The libero will be Johnny Gomez. He wears number 13. And the setter, Brian Negron, he wears number 14. He is a 6'7" sophomore out of San Juan, Puerto Rico. All right, final thoughts before we get this match officially underway. What are you expecting tonight?
You know, something that I like to see is BYU last night against Loyola Chicago. They set the middle not very often. And I know that's something that Coach Olmsted has wanted to try to do. So it'll be interesting to see if they go that route this tonight.
All right, guys getting their final handshakes in, waving to the crowd. And we're about to begin set number 1 here at the Smith Fieldhouse. Number 1, BYU, and number 14, George Mason. Another great crowd filing into the Smith Fieldhouse, especially when you consider there's a BYU basketball game going on right now, too. Lots of fans here on campus today enjoying some BYU sports.
What was it? Last night's attendance, 5,600 people?
5,637. Pretty crazy. Brian Negron getting ready to get this game in motion, get ready to serve for George Mason, and we are officially underway. And the set starts with a service error. 1-0 BYU.
Kind of like how the teams from last night left off. A lot of missed serves.
Hey, and as a coach, you hate giving up those freebies, don't you?
It's tough. It's one of those things that you can control. It's just get it over, get it in, put them, you know, in a pressure situation.
BYU comes in on the block. Hatch and Daubert combined for the block there. 2-0 BYU early here in set number 1.
Tim Daubert already making a name for himself with that block.
Leo Durkin ready to serve. And a service error for Durkin in BYU. 2-1 BYU here in the first set. As you mentioned, there were quite a few last night. And that's one of those things that, you know, you've got to work on it as much as you can, but you get into a game situation, you just never know how it's going to play out.
It's like, yeah, let's just make them pass.
Nice little tip pass there from Daubert. George Mason back on the offense, and they get the kill. Nice attack from George Mason.
Number 14 already reversing flow. This is one of tactic to get strong BYU's block on their toes.
We're all tied, 2-2 in set number 1. Christian Malias getting ready to serve. BYU back on the attack. Brendan Sander getting the kill off the hands of the Patriots. BYU goes up 3-2.
I really liked watching Brendan last night. He showed some maturity, did really, really well.
Sander ready to serve. Back over to Sykes. Michael Hatch with the kill. 4-2 BYU. BYU looking very aggressive to start this first set.
Yeah, Hatch, you know, like I referred before, Hatch only had 4 attempts last night, so he's already doing better than he did last night.
Sander on the serve again. Just out. Looked like he was going for the corner. Unfortunately, it just went a little bit long. It's a service error for Brendan Sander and BYU. 4-3 your score. Cougars leading the Patriots. Bryant Eckstein, the middle blocker, ready to serve for George Mason.
Yikes.
Put a little too much mustard on that one. Another service error for George Mason, and BYU will take advantage of that. Go up by 2, 5-3 your score here in set number 1.
That ball just flew.
It did. Michael Hatch now serving for BYU. Great dig there by the Cougars. Daubert on the attack. Great double block from the Cougars. What a fantastic defensive play for BYU. 6'3" Cougars.
It's always tough for a hitter to see two huge blockers right in front of them. It's tough to go around them.
Nice dig there by Sander. Out to Daubert again. Great dig by the Patriots. Jack Wilson went up, had the big swing. Unfortunately, he hit that a little too high. Goes out of bounds. Hitting error on Wilson. 7-3 BYU with the lead early on.
Almost went up to the rafters on that one.
And to do that, you've got to hit it pretty high.
Ball in those angles.
The back set and the block out of bounds. It's going to be a point for George Mason. 7-4 in favor of the Cougars.
Yeah, Jake just didn't quite get his left hand around back into the court early enough. Went off his hand out of bounds.
Jack Wilson serving for the Patriots. That one goes just a little bit long. It looked like one of those ones that was going to be iffy, and you kind of had to make that judgment call early on.
Not enough spin. That's the thing with jump serves. You don't get enough spin, it's not going to drop like you want it to.
Tim Daubert on the serve for BYU. If you're just joining us now, getting the start for Ben Patch. What a kill for Price Jarman.
Price out of Las Vegas, that's where I'm from, so a little
love for the Vegas guys.
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with that. Cougars go up for the block. It was Durkin and Jarman, but couldn't get it. It goes out of bounds. 9-5 BYU as George Mason gets the point.
Middles on both sides are doing really well.
Radoslav Popov from Bulgaria serving for George Mason. 6'2" junior. That ball goes long. Another service error. So far, that is 4 on George Mason.
You know, usually California teams, when they come in, they have a tough time serving it in just because of the sea level altitude.
Yeah.
I don't know if Fairfax, Virginia can use that excuse as for George Mason, but they've been missing a whole lot.
Now BYU gives it right back with their own service error. 3 service errors in a row. That one coming from Dom Edgley. BYU with a 5-point advantage right now, 11-6 here in set number 1.
Both coaches, I bet, are turning inside.
Pulling their hair out. Price Jarman serving for BYU. The back set. A great block, but a perfect dig by George Mason. Daubert goes down for the dig. Brendan Sander on the attack. What a fantastic play there by number 13, Johnny Gomez.
Great effort on both sides. Good, strong rally. Let's see if the setter can get it in here.
Brian Negron on the serve. Sykes, a little overpass there. George Mason able to get it back up. Another. Nice pickup there. Out of bounds. It's going to be a point for George Mason. 11-8. BYU leading the Patriots here in set number 1. There's not a whole lot of flow in this to this point.
You know, it's really hard when you're missing so many serves to get in a flow.
Sander on the attack, gets it stuffed. 11-9. George Mason looking to make a little bit of a comeback here. BYU with the 2-point advantage in set number 1.
Nice job by Melias. 2 kills in a row and follows it up with a block. He's doing well.
BYU receives. Durkin on the set.
Looks like George Mason was called in the net.
Net violation. Cougars will take it. 12-9 the score. BYU now on the serve. Leo Durkin. Michael Hatch with the nice block there.
Oh.
Another violation on George Mason. 13-9 between the violations and the service errors. Patriots are kicking themselves in the foot right now.
I mean, out of the 13 points, I would say a good 75% of them are on George Mason's errors.
Jack Wilson on the attack and gets the kill. Nice shot there by Wilson.
Wilson was their kill leader last season with almost 300 kills.
George Mason back, ready to serve. Christian Malias there. Durkin over to Langlois who gets the kill. He elevated, and boy did he crush that.
You know, that's when you've got somebody like that coming out of the back row that quick. I mean, 4 options. It's tough for the defense to play well, to defend that.
Brendan Sanders serving for the Cougars. That ball low, nice pickup there. Wilson on the kill, BYU able to get the block. Cougars back on offense. Daubert with the kill, going cross court. Nice job.
Tim Daubert showing his range, going cross court, painting lines.
15-10, our score here. BYU leading George Mason in set number 1. A timeout as the two teams gather together. All right, Coach Height, what do you? If you're BYU, we'll start with the Cougars first. What are you talking to your team about in the huddle?
You know, I'm telling them that they're doing a lot of good stuff as long as we're being smart and keeping the ball in play, not making errors. We're doing a lot of good things when those opportunities present itself. So we just need to make sure that we keep playing BYU volleyball and keep the ball in, but also staying aggressive.
You had mentioned, we had talked a lot about the serve errors. George Mason has 5. BYU has 3. But right now, the hitting percentage significantly favoring BYU. Your hitting percentage as a team, the Cougars at .417, and George Mason just at .188. That's not going to win you very many sets.
No, it's not. .417 is really good. Anything over 300 is going to be good. But in the men's game, you definitely need to be over 200 to really kind of stay into it. But the thing that's really hurting them is those errors. George Mason, you know, as a coach, you say as a server, if you're jump floating, you want to miss maybe 1 in 10, okay, 1 in 20. If you're a jump server, you want to get about 85% in, and they're not doing that right now. So it's really hurting them.
Both teams take the court. 15-10 your score here in set number 1. BYU leading George Mason. Brendan Sander serving for the Cougs. Great block for BYU. Get the point, 16-10.
Yeah, that was Malias coming out of the back row. Just couldn't find the window to hit it through.
BYU's blocking has been spectacular so far in this one. Service error on Brendan Sander.
Hit that one a little bit too hard.
It's going to be
enough spin.
4 service errors now on BYU, just one shy of George Mason, who has 5. Bryant Eckstein serving for George Mason. That ball, a little bit of a slice.
When a ball goes out that much, that's just a focus error, and that, as a coach, that would kill me more than the ones that go out, you know, by 2-3 inches.
Yeah, the ones that are completely obvious. Michael Hatch serving for the Cougars. BYU with the 17-11 lead. BYU's defense trying to block another one. But the point goes to George Mason.
That's
nice attack there by the Patriots.
That's why the quick sets are so good. It's just hard to get both your hands over quick enough.
Jack Wilson on the serve. Nice pickup there by Sykes. Brendan Sanders comes in off the hands of the Patriots, and it's now 18-12 BYU.
I'm not sure if that one was touched by the block and looked like that one was going out. Might have been touched.
Tim Daubert now serving for the Cougars with the jump serve there. Tom Edgley gets it over for the Patriots. Jake Langlois on the attack, gets the kill, goes off the hands of Wilson and out of play. 19-12 BYU.
Another BYU player that can just go up and hit it over the block. Those are super tough to defend.
Just looking at the height differential of a lot of these players is pretty obvious too. The back set. BYU gets the block. It was Jarman and Langlois combining for the block, and it gives BYU another point. They're now up 8, 20-12 in set number 1. Another timeout on the floor. We'll take a quick timeout. We'll come back with more action. You're listening to and watching college volleyball on the W.TV. Back on the court, 20-12, BYU leading George Mason, set number 1. Cougars get ready to serve. Tim Daubert getting the start for Ben Patch tonight. Ready to serve, and there he goes. Almost an overpass there. Nice dig by Langlois. The back set to Daubert. George Mason couldn't handle that kill.
No, last time he went hard cross, and now he goes line.
BYU up 21-12. Daubert's played very well tonight so far.
He's a very, very good player, very experienced player, international player.
That one goes out of play, 21-13 on the air.
That was interesting. I thought he was a jump server, but that time it looked like it was a jump float. So
maybe he's mixing it up a bit. Popov on the serve for George Mason. Daubert with the little tip, the little push shot. Back serve to Wilson, off the hands of the Cougars and out of play. Nice execution there by George Mason.
Really nice job going off high hands. It's something that you practice every single day is don't be afraid of that block. If it's there, just go high off hands.
Radoslav Popov for George Mason on the serve. Nice jump serve there. That goes out of play. Another service error for George Mason.
Another easy one for BYU to see that it's going out.
Yeah, when there's no question, it makes the job very easy on the opposition. Langlois on the serve. Back over to
BYU in the net.
Malias there on the attack. Unfortunately, BYU just can't keep up with that one. That one was nice. That was a nice kill there by Malias. 22-15, Cougars. BYU now on the attack. Price Jarman with the kill, 23-15. He elevated.
Wow, Price Jarman. The mighty hammer of Thor has struck again.
From from one Vegas guy to another, right?
Man, from one middle to another.
That's right. That's right. Jarman now serving for the Cougars. Malias gets the kill right there on the line. Nice placement there.
I'm really liking this Christian Malias. He was a libero and an outside last year. In fact, I think he played libero mostly. So nice job coming in, attacking the ball.
The setter, Brian Negron, with the service error, and now we have set point for the Cougars. BYU up 24-16. And it all falls on the shoulders of Leo Durkin. Well, not really, but he's the one serving right now. BYU gets the block and in. Nice execution there by George Mason. Not ready to give it up just yet, 24-17 BYU. Still set point.
The shark jaws have come out.
That's right.
Never understood why.
It's just tradition. Malias on the serve. The ace. Been talking so much about the service errors, we got to give them credit when they get the ace.
Actually, it was,
Did they call that
out wide. So he called it in because it was in on the end line, but it was out wide.
All right, so there you go. The service error and the story of the first set is how we conclude set number one. BYU gets the victory 25-17 in set number one. We'll come back. We'll have set number two after this. You're watching college volleyball on the W.TV.
They like to go to the hot hitter, and he's definitely one of them. That's why he's been set 8 times, because he's been able to put the ball away.
Jason Shepard, Dave Height on the call with you tonight as we get ready for set number 2 here in Provo. Great crowd as always. Cougar fans love their volleyball, whether it's men's or women's. They always show up to support. And as we were talking about, you've got a basketball game going on right now too. So got a packed house here and I'm sure a great crowd over at the Marriott Center as the Cougars take on the San Francisco Dons in a West Coast Conference matchup.
Some of the best fans in the country, passionate. I mean, they're going to be passionate everywhere, but they love their volleyball.
No question. BYU heads into set number 2 as a team with a .529 hitting percentage. As you mentioned, anything over 3 is really good. If you're at .529, Sean Olmstead's got to be pretty pleased with what he's seeing.
He really is. I think Leo Durkin is doing a nice job spreading it around for the Cougars.
Durkin on the serve for the BYU. That attack goes out. BYU will get the point.
Yeah.
Daubert looked like he got hurt a little bit. Came up a little lame, but looks to be okay.
George Mason player came under the net. He landed on his foot. It's never a fun thing to see.
Yeah, Coach Olmstead asked him if he was okay, and he said he was fine. Durkin on the set again, or on the serve again, with a service error, and that ties things up 1-1 in set 2.
A little too much float.
First serve for George Mason here in set number 2. Justin Coleman in for the first time. Actually met his mom yesterday, sitting in the stands, talking to his mom. He's from California, I believe.
The only one, I think.
Yeah, he's from Saugus, California, but decided to go to George Mason in Virginia, and this was the closest that they were coming to California, so that's why she decided to come and watch her boy play. Wilson on the attack, can't get it. Great defense by BYU at the net.
BYU having 4.5 blocks in the first set, right back into the second set with their first block.
BYU up 3-1. Brendan Sander ready to serve for the Cougars. Wilson on the attack, great dig by Sykes. Durkin up for the back row attack from Sander. Unfortunately, doesn't get over, and that's going to be a point for George Mason.
I thought maybe that was going to go out of bounds, but it just fell right in, hit the paint. I believe that's Brendan's first error, though.
You are correct. 3 kills, 1 error. That was one of those iffy calls. It goes the way of George Mason, and they tie this second set up at 3-3. I'm not necessarily sure the back line of the Cougars agree with that one.
I don't know if I agree with it either.
3-3, all tied up here in set number 2. Number 1 BYU, number 14 George Mason. Langlois over to Durkin, to Daubert. Nice dig there by George Mason, but unfortunately it goes out for them. BYU gets the point, up 4-3.
Good to see that Tim Daubert's ankle's okay.
Yeah.
Definitely.
When you're doing things like that, your ankle's got to be pretty good. Michael Hatch with the service error. That ties set number 2 back up at 4.
Those are the other errors that bug coaches are the easy ones into the net.
So far, though, the good thing for BYU, only 2 attacking errors. That's not bad, as opposed to 7 for George Mason. Langlois on the attack. Great dig by Malias. BYU's defense strong at the net. Going to be a back row attack from Sander. Wilson gets it in right on the back line.
Another one. Sorry.
And that gives George Mason their first lead of the match.
I will say that those balls are coming super, super fast. They're rockets. But
you really have a split second to make a decision.
You really do.
Langlois with a nice little floater there. Gets it to go down, 5-5.
Jake did that same exact shot last night, and it fell for a kill, and it came back with it. Really good job. We call that the hitter toolbox, being able to mix things up, going roll shots.
Johnny Gomez checks back in for George Mason. He comes in for middle blocker Garrett Kohler. Sends it over. Durkin to Jarman. Unfortunately, he gets that stuffed. 6-5. A little bit different lineup for George Mason. They've had a couple of substitutions. So far, they seem to be a little bit more accurate.
Yeah, sometimes just making those changes, it forces the setter to make changes, which means the defense has to try to figure a new strategy out.
Jack Wilson serving for the Patriots. And a service error ties this matchup, or excuse me, ties this setup at 6-6.
That one hit the bottom of the net.
You kind of want the serve to dive, but it usually is on the other end of the net. Malias gets the kill. Man, he's fun to watch, and he's not super tall.
He's not, and those are the ones that are usually the super fun ones to watch. Those and the bend patches that can fly, but you know, when you're a little bit smaller and you can get up there, it's exciting.
He's 6'2", which at my height, I would kill to be 6'2".
It's not your typical outside hitter, though.
No, he is not. You do not see that very often. Another error on George Mason on the serve. 7-7 here in set number 2. Bryce Jarman ready to serve for the Cougars. Looking to take the advantage here. Wilson on the attack, hits it out. BYU regains the lead at 8-7.
That's what happens to the hitters when you start getting in their face with the big block. They try to do a little too much, and that's what happened that time.
Cougars up by a point, looking to extend their lead. Bryce Jarman ready to serve. George Mason goes on the attack. Malias gets it to go.
Man.
Jarman looked like he was going to be able to dig that up, just couldn't get to it.
Malias, going back to that 6'2" thing, when you're a little bit smaller, you have to figure out ways to score, and it actually can prove to help you out and go to your advantage.
Dom Edgley, the volleyball, get ready to serve. Over to Durkin. Back row kill from Jake Langlois. Pretty play there by the Cougars. BYU regains the lead 9-8 in set number 2. Leo Durkin ready to serve. Nice quick set. And it allows George Mason to get the kill. Garrett Kohler with the kill. They tie the setup at 9-9. BYU keeps it alive. Durkin keeps it high. They're going to just send that over. Patriots back on the attack. Malias hits it hard and out of play. BYU gets the point, 10-9.
Another ball that just barely bounces outside the sideline. George Mason actually was petitioning for a touch on that one.
The hitting percentage for George Mason has dropped back down to 167. Jack Wilson. I actually thought BYU may have gotten a piece of that one, but doesn't look like it. BYU gets the point as that goes out of play. 11-9 Cougars.
That one is what we call a spatch.
Brendan Sander. The service error gives a point right back to the Patriots. 11-10 BYU, set number 2.
The set is a lot closer than the first one.
Much. Well, and BYU has 5 service errors in this set.
Foot fault.
Going to be a violation and a point for BYU. They take a 2-point lead, 12-10. Michael Hatch getting ready to serve for the Cougars with a 2-point advantage. Nice play there by Kohler off the BYU hands, out of play. You get the point and pull within 1. It's now 12-11 BYU.
Coleman coming in is setting the middles a bit more, and I think that's working out for him.
Durkin with the set and the kill by Price Jarman. BYU takes a 2-point advantage, 13-11 in set number 2.
Price Jarman coming in fast, saw that blocker on his right, did a cutback.
I've been really impressed, and granted, it's only match number 2 for BYU, but Leo Durkin as a setter has really impressed me.
Oh, their setter went up to go set it, and Jake just was aggressive and got over and hit it off the setter's hand. They called the setter back row. Point Cougars.
Cougars extend the lead to 3 points, 14-11 here in set number 2. Tim Daubert ready to serve. Great dig there by Daubert. Durkin with the set. It's going to be a violation there on BYU.
That one was a double, but this day and age, so many calls don't get called, and that one I thought would not blow the whistle.
Patriots pulled it within 2, 14-12 BYU. Durkin, back row attack from Daubert. Over to Sykes. Durkin, the quick set to Price Jarman, who gets in with the kill. The Patriots had no chance on that one.
I'm really liking the way that Jake is passing the ball. He's doing a really good job. They're kind of picking on him, and he's making them pay.
BYU back with the 3-point advantage here in set number 2, 15-12. Patriots go on the attack. Dig there by Daubert. The back set for the Langlois, and out of play off of the Patriots. Nice execution there by BYU to take a 16-12 lead.
Jake doing his laundry, putting that ball down the chute, just right down the chest of the blockers.
Cougars with the 4-point advantage, 16-12. Their hitting percentage is at .452. Jake Langlois now leading BYU with 6 kills in the match so far and a hitting percentage of .750. Nice little quick back set. And Dom Edgley gets the kill. 16-13 BYU.
It's a tough shot to hit, especially for a right-hander. Got to go past the block and hit it high over the net.
Kyle Barnes serving. Ball goes back over to the Patriots side of the net. Malias with the attack. Goes out of play, point for BYU. They regain the 4-point advantage at 17-13.
I thought there was a hole in the block, and he decided to go outside the middle blocker, and it went out of bounds.
It really is just fraction of a centimeter on whether or not these guys can get to it and touch it before it goes out of bounds or out of play. A service error on BYU. That one goes long, and the Patriots will gladly take a point. It's now 17-14 BYU in set number 2. Edgley on the serve with the service error. Cougars.
Good 10 feet long.
That's 15 service errors on George Mason. Now, BYU has 9. But 15 service errors is,
it's a lot.
That's you're going to feel that one. And a great block on the double block for BYU. Sander and Hatch get up to stuff that one, and BYU gets the point and extends their lead to 5 at 19-14. What a play there on defense by BYU.
BYU still with only 3 errors, hitting almost 500. It's amazing. You're going to win a lot of matches that way.
And as well as BYU is playing, as you mentioned, only 3 attacking errors, 12 errors on George Mason. And it was interesting because I was talking with the head coach, Jay Hosick, and asking him, because this is his first year as the head coach of George Mason. He was an assistant coach at Penn State prior to. And I asked him what type of team he had coming into this. And he basically told me that, says the program's in a changing mode. It's kind of a rebirth of sorts. The guys are learning some new systems, and it's just going to take time you know, when you're trying to implement a new system with guys that you haven't coached before, it is going to take time.
It really is. It's a, you know, he's a first-year head coach coming over from Penn State. It's a very, very successful program. I believe they only had one regular that actually graduated, and so all these kids are trying to, I shouldn't say kids, all these players are just learning a new system and, you know, trying to do what the coach is asking.
Coach Hosick is, he's a character. I asked him about playing BYU, and he very matter-of-factly said, hey, they've got to pass, set, and hit just like we do. I don't see them as any kind of menacing force. I don't think there's anything to be afraid of. So, and that's kind of the mentality he's trying to instill in his team, is you never back down from anybody. And while they've had a lot of errors in this second set, they certainly have played better in set number 2 than they did in set number 1.
Definitely, and I'll translate that coach talk. That just means anybody can beat anybody on any given night.
Gotta love coach speak. George Mason back on the attack. Jack Wilson gets it stuffed out of play. And a point to BYU. 2014 Cougars.
The set was, I believe, 11-all at one point.
It was. Malias just on the outside of the line. That one looked pretty close. Nice try there on the attack, just a little bit to the left, just a little outside. 21-14 BYU.
Malias actually just went under the net again, and Daubert looked to the ref and say, hey, can you watch this?
Malias on the attack, great dig there by Sykes. Durkin on the set. The attack there by Brendan Sander. George Mason able to keep it alive. Sykes up to the net. Durkin over, a nice tip there by Jake Langlois. And a kill by Brendan Sander. Nice little rally going on for a while, but BYU ultimately getting the point at now 22-14.
A good rally a lot of times ends with an overpass just because they're hustling, and that time BYU, Brendan made him pay for it.
Malias again, this time he gets it to go down. The block was there, just wasn't able to get it done. 22-15 in favor of BYU, still with the 7-point advantage.
Quick arm, beats a slow block.
Justin Coleman, the freshman from California on the serve. Durkin with the set, over to Daubert, off the hands of the defense of George Mason. That's gonna be a point for the Cougars, 23-15 BYU.
Man, what a weapon Coach Olmsted has, the number 16, Tim Daubert. I mean, he comes out, you know, he's sitting behind Ben Patch, probably arguably the best player in the country, and he's playing really well tonight.
Yeah, if you're just joining us, Ben Patch did not start. Tim Daubert getting the start in place of Ben Patch. That ball goes a little bit too far for George Mason to get to it. It's now set point for the Cougars here in set number 2, looking to take a 2-0 advantage into the break. Kirill Meritev in for BYU. He's set to serve here, seeing his first action. Malias gets the kill and keeps this set alive for George Mason. It's now 24-16.
Gets ace, come back, makes a nice swing down the line.
Malias, Christian Malias, serving for the Patriots. That ball came right in on Chang, who's also checked in. He's checking in for Sykes at the libero position. Several more substitutions tonight than we saw last night. BYU with only one sub yesterday.
Yeah. It's what coaches usually do, go to the bench when they're about to win a set and they're up pretty big.
And that's how set number 2 is going to come to an end. It's long, it is a service error, and BYU wins set number 2, 25-17. They lead the match 2-0. For you, Dave, thoughts on the first 2 sets? It wasn't pretty at times, but BYU is on the attacks. The hitting percentage is high. Overall, what have you thought?
You know, I thought BYU came out strong with their hitting, and it just kind of stayed that way. I think a couple of things that indicate a great team are ones that can play well over a long period of time, and I think that's what BYU is doing tonight. On George Mason's side, it makes you wonder if the coach says, hey, you know what, we're going to try to serve a bit tougher to try to get them out of system, because BYU has a lot of weapons, and you kind of scout against that by serving a bit tougher. So that's one thing that might have been said, because they are missing quite a few serves.
BYU with 35 attacks, 19 kills, only 3 attacking errors, hitting percentage of .457, 12 digs, 7.5 blocks for BYU. They're led in kills by Jake Langlois with 6. His hitting percentage is at .667. Price Jarman, as well as Brendan Sander and Tim Daubert, each with 4 kills for BYU. Michael Hatch with 1 kill. Leo Durkin with 15 assists. As I mentioned, I've been really impressed with his ability to set up his teammates at that setter position. And, you know, we had a couple of substitutions late. Chang came in for Sykes, and Meritev also was a substitution. Kirill Meritev came in for BYU. But overall, I think BYU is playing well enough to be pleased, but also realize there's still some things to work on.
Yeah, definitely Coach Olmsted will have stuff to talk about when he goes in there. They're not going to just go in there and drink water and watch the clock. There's some things that they've got to get better at. I know he's still probably disappointed on how many missed serves there are, just from working with him the past season and how he you know, talked to the team as far as missed serves. I know that's one thing that he's talking about. But I think all in all, he's going to have a good message to him saying, hey, you're doing a really good job offensively, defensively. We just got to keep the energy on our side.
On the other side of things, George Mason with 48 attacks, 19 kills, 14 attacking errors, and you were talking about that. I mean, you just aren't going to win too many sets with 14 attacking errors. Their hitting percentage as a team is .104, 15 service errors, 3.5 blocks, 11 digs. There are a lot of things to work on for George Mason. I mean, and they knew it was an uphill battle. Number one, you're coming across country, but you're also taking on the number 1 team on their home floor. That's never an easy situation.
It's not, and I think they're feeling the pressure. By my math, my quick math, 31 errors total, with the hitting errors, the serving errors, the ball handling errors, blocking errors. So 31 of the 50 points that BYU has gotten has come from George Mason mistakes, and that's usually because of the pressure.
Well, and even if you're a head coach that is willing to admit it's going to take time, a stat like that still drives you nuts.
It does. It does. You're gonna have mistakes, and the coach will say that all the time. You're gonna have mistakes. 31 though is a bit on the much side.
BYU with a 2-0 advantage. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, have set number 3. You're watching Men's College Volleyball on the W.TV. Where we are at the Marriott Center, the BYU men's basketball team taking on San Francisco. They are at halftime. It is 51-45. The Cougars leading the Dons. So BYU, after dropping its first WCC game, looking to get on a little bit of a winning streak here in West Coast Conference play. Also earlier today, the BYU women picked up a nice road win. So congratulations to the BYU women's basketball team. We get you ready for set number 3 between BYU and George Mason here on the W.TV.
Starting in row 6 is BYU.
We'll see what other substitutions right now. So far, it appears that Coach Olmstead is going to go with the same players that started this match. Jay Hosick has brought in a couple of new players for his team. Paco Velez, an opposite hitter, is in the match for the Patriots. Michael Hatch there gets it right back in his face. Durkin on the set. Langlois sends it over. A net violation there.
George Mason called in the net.
You got it, and that's the first point for BYU. Comes on a net violation. Cougars take a 1-0 lead here in set number 3.
Not a good way to start out for the Patriots.
Leo Durkin will serve for BYU. George Mason on the attack. Paco Velez can't get it over, and that's going to be another point for BYU, up 2-0.
Yeah, Paco was a starter last year. He started the first 2 matches this year, so it was interesting to see Coach Hosick go a different direction, but he's left-handed, so it'll be a different look for BYU.
Right into the net. Another hitting error for George Mason. 3-0 BYU. That is gonna. You can look over at the bench and see Coach Hosick. He is not pleased.
3 points, 3 errors.
Coleman on the set. The kill by Dom Edgley. Emphatic, getting the Patriots on the board for the first time here in set number 3. Edgley, after the kill, will get to serve for George Mason. That ball called out, went long. BYU's 4 points have all come on errors.
All of them.
3 on hitting errors and 1 on the service error. BYU will not complain, though.
No. It sent the Patriots coach back to the bench. He's writing down some notes. Don't miss serves.
Interesting quote from their head coach. He says, "I'm not a feel-good coach." He says, I'm fluent in trucker, and I'm not proud of it, but guys know there's a moment when I'm going to put my arm around them, and then there's a moment I'm going to kick them in the backside. Probably more of the latter there.
Trucker, huh?
Yeah, fluent in trucker. And by the way, that quote, I had to edit some of that quote because of the aforementioned fluent in trucker. 4-3 BYU with the 1-point advantage.
I'm glad you're doing the translating this time.
Sykes over to Durkin, to Langlois. George Mason able to get that over the net somehow. Durkin back to Langlois on the attack. And a nice dig there by the Patriots. Little tip, and Langlois goes over the net. Are they calling in the net on Langlois?
Calling in the net on Langlois,
there
number
you go.
10.
4-4. Now after a rough start for George Mason, they fought their way back and tied this third set up at 4 apiece.
BYU making some uncharacteristic errors.
Justin Coleman there on the serve. Langlois on the attack, and that goes long. And the Patriots are going to get their first lead of set number 3. They lead BYU 5-4. Sean Olmstead clapping, giving his team encouragement. Remember, they do have a 2-set-to-none lead right now. Durkin on the set, the back set to Daubert with the kill. Nice execution by BYU on that, and Daubert with the kill.
That's tough, having a player like Jake on the outside. The block goes after them, and you can't leave Tim Daubert open.
He has played really well so far for BYU tonight, starting in place of Ben Patch. Paco Velez tried to tip it over, can't get it. That's going to be a point for BYU.
Set was a bit wide. You know, it is the beginning of the season, but both teams are getting a lot of points off the other team's errors.
We're talking about Daubert. He's got 5 kills and a .417 hitting percentage tonight. Almost an overpass there.
That time, Jake was called over the net. Setter was trying to set it, and he touched the ball after he set it, and you can't do that.
The best player for George Mason, Christian Malayas, getting ready to serve. All tied up, 6-6 here in set number 3. And a service error after I give him his props immediately with the service error.
Jinxed him.
I did. 7-6 BYU. That's 17 service errors on the Patriots tonight. Tim Daubert on the serve. BYU gives it right back.
Returns the favor.
10 service errors for BYU. As a coach, in set 3, how would you feel about the number 10 on service errors?
I wouldn't feel very...
Wouldn't be too happy?
No. You know, and Sean's doing the right thing. Because players will take after the demeanor of the head coach, and when he stands up and he's clapping, I mean, he's doing a good job, but inside he's not clapping.
Langlois serving with BYU having an 8-7 advantage here in set 3. George Mason getting the kill there. Kyle Barnes on the attack.
Barnes, is that his first kill?
Kyle Barnes tonight does not have a kill, so yes, that is his first kill. Paco Velez serving. The over goes over the net. George Mason gets the attack. 9-8 for the Patriots.
On the overpass. For the most part, though, Jake's been doing well. Let's see if they'll go back to him.
Velez on the serve again. That one long and really wasn't even close. And that ties set 3 up at 9-9.
Bails him out again. Here, Jake just gets pretty much passes, a bad pass over the net and kind of bails him out.
Bryce Jarman serving for BYU. Over to Barnes. Nice set. Paco Velez on the attack. Off BYU and in. Nice kill there for Paco Velez. George Mason regains the lead at 10-9.
Really nice job there. BYU knew where it was going, so they had 3 blockers up, and he was still able to squeak it through.
Kyle Barnes, the outside hitter on the serve. That one goes out. Another service error for George Mason. We're all knotted up. 10-10 here in set number 3. BYU with a 2-0 advantage, looking to close things out here in the AVCA Showcase. Durkin on the serve. Paco Velez on the kill, but it goes long. Nice attack. Just hit it a little bit too hard and it carried.
And we're right back where we were in set 2, 11-10. Let's see if BYU can make another run.
Durkin on the serve. Coleman on the set. Malayas on the attack and the kill. BYU had a couple of players there trying to dig it up, but they just couldn't get to it. We're all tied up 11-11.
Malayas finding that 5-6 seam in the back row for the kill. Doing a nice job navigating their defense.
Dom Edgley on the serve. And that goes long. Another service error. That's 20 service errors on George Mason.
That's a lot. How many in this set?
In this set alone, We're gonna have to look that one up. That's at least 4 service errors in this set alone. Barnes on the attack, gets it stuffed. Back to Malias, another block, the double block from Hatch and Daubert. Nice dig there by Sykes. Durkin on the set. Langlois with the tip, but it carries and goes out of play. 12-12 in set 3.
Set was a bit tight. Jake had to go up high and get it and pushed it out of bounds.
Those tips are so much finesse that sometimes you just give it a little too much.
Too much love.
Durkin to Langlois on the attack. And on the dig, it comes right back over to BYU side of the net. Hatch on the kill, and it's down. 13-12, BYU with the advantage.
Durkin does a really nice job. He's running away from the net and still sets Hatch a beautiful ball, and he puts it away.
I have been thoroughly impressed with BYU's passing tonight. Michael Hatch on the serve. Matthias keeps it in. Back to Malias. Gets it stuffed and down. Great defense by BYU, and they take a 2-point advantage at 14-12.
Again, for how good Malias has been doing, there was a big hole, and he tried to challenge the block and went BYU's way.
Coleman on the set to Velez. Nice dig there by Sander. Unfortunately, it goes out of play, and that's going to be a point and a kill for Paco Velez and George Mason. 14-13, BYU with the advantage.
Paco, he's got a good arm.
Yeah, he does. I like saying Paco Velez.
Paco Velez from Puerto Rico.
Paco Velez is from Puerto Rico. That hits the net and down, an ace. Haven't seen too many of those.
No, you know, unlike tennis, if it hits the net and it goes down, you get the point.
14-14 here in set number 3. Christian Malias serving for George Mason. And a service error gives a point right back to BYU. They regain the advantage at 15-14.
No way that one was going over.
Daubert will serve for BYU with a 1-point advantage here in set number 3. Daubert. You're right, it's kind of a half jump serve there. He just didn't get enough oomph on it.
Yeah, he does a lot better when he does that top spin, so it's interesting that he keeps going back to that jump float.
And again, if you're just joining us, Ben Patch did not start, has not played. Daubert started in place of Ben Patch. BYU back on the attack from the back row. Langlois gets it in the corner, going cross court. A beautiful kill by Jake Langlois.
Coaches love corners, and Jake just hit one. That was a nice high swing right into the back corner. No defense is getting that.
16-15, Langlois after the kill will serve and commits the error. 16-16 in set 3.
Sean is beginning to have a tough time with these missed serves.
That's now 11 errors on serves, 12 errors on serves for BYU. Nice back set to Daubert. Gets the kill. The defense for George Mason could not come up with that dig, and BYU regains the lead at 17-16.
Daubert totally redeems himself from that missed serve with a big kill out of the back row.
He's fun to watch. Bryce Jarman serving for the Cougars. Coleman on the set. Velez with the kill, goes off the blockers. Sander and Hatch tried to block that, but it went out of bounds.
Yeah, Sander went down out to the antenna to block line, and Hatch just didn't quite close.
Kyle
Paco.
Barnes. Paco, I've been impressed with Paco Velez. Kyle Barnes serving for George Mason. Sander on the kill, and that goes wide and out of play. 18-17 as George Mason now regains the lead.
BYU seems to be trying a little bit too hard when they just got to go out there and play.
Nice dive there by Langlois. Over to Sander. He gets that blocked. by Coleman and out of play. We're all tied up, 18-18.
Brendan does a nice job coming back after that swing, go up high off that block.
Coleman, as we mentioned, is a freshman from California, from Saugus, California. Ian Durkin is serving for BYU. BYU gets the block. Sykes with the bump set. Daubert on the attack and the kill. 19-18, BYU in set number 3.
Tim does a really nice job snapping that wrist, getting that ball to spin on it, so when it hit Paco's platform, it just spun right off.
Serve over by Durkin. Paco Velez gets it blocked and out of play. That'll be a point for George Mason. I like the aggression at the net, but unfortunately carried out after the block, and we're all tied up 19-19.
Yeah, we tell our blockers that they need to be aware of their hands, because ball knows angles, and if those hands aren't back into the court, you're going to get tooled.
Jack Wilson, the Patriot outside hitter, with the serve and the error. BYU back on top, 2019.
Jack Wilson was their kill leader last year, and BYU's doing a really good job against him. He has 7 hitting errors, hitting negative. And then he comes back in just as a serving sub and serves it into the net. Tough night. Wilson
and Edgley come out. Velez and Malias come back in for George Mason. Langlois tries to get the kill on the overpass. That one goes long on the attack from Daubert. We're tied up 20-20.
That one was pretty close.
Meritev, who had just checked in, will come back out, and Brendan Sander will come back in for BYU. Set number 3, BYU leads 2-0. We're tied here 20-20 in the 3rd set. Nice back set from Daubert off the defense of George Mason, out of play, and it's 21-20 BYU.
George Mason's libero is in pretty good position. Daubert just cranks the ball down the line, just tough to dig.
Michael Hatch on the serve. Coleman on the back set to Malias. Hits that out of bounds. Oh, they're saying it was tipped.
Whoa.
That's going to be a point for George Mason. As soon as that call said that it was out, they immediately were talking to the referee saying, no. And they conferred and made the decision that yes, BYU touched it before it went out of bounds. We're tied up 21 apiece.
And it comes from the line judge furthest away.
Christian Malias ready to serve. 21-21 here in set number 3. Sykes receives over to Durkin. The back set to Daubert with the kill. Tim Daubert, 9 kills on the night so far. He has played fantastic for BYU. A .471 hitting percentage.
He's been their go-to.
Now he serves for the Cougars. Coleman there on the set. Malias able to get it in under the hands of Brendan Sander, who was trying to dig that up.
Back to Tim Daubert. In the men's game, there's a lot of coaches that will argue that the opposite is the most important position. Somebody that can hit out of the back row, spread the offense, even when the setter's front row. And BYU appears to have 2 really good ones.
BYU's defense showing up at the net once again. Nice dig there. Malias able to get it over to BYU's side of the net. Daubert comes in with the kill. What a fantastic rally by both sides, and an impressive kill from Tim Daubert and the Cougars.
And the George Mason coach is just super happy for his team, just applauding, just telling his team that's the way we play the game.
He's clapping his hands, yelling, good job, good job. 23-22, BYU. Langlois serving for the Cougars. Over to Barnes. Nice dig there by Langlois, but they can't get it over the net. That's a point for George Mason, 23-23. This has by far been the most competitive set that we've seen tonight.
Yeah, George Mason has come out and they're not showing any fear, kind of like the trucker coach was talking about.
Right.
Not backing down.
That looked like that may have been going out. Sander on the kill. BYU up 24-23. Match point Cougars.
Great swing by Sander.
Cougars looking to close this one out in straight sets.
This is a time you do not want to miss when it's match point.
Jarman serving for BYU. Coleman on the set. Kyle Barnes gets it stuffed back. Little push over there by Malias. Durkin to Langlois. George Mason able to keep that in play. Velez pushes it over. Durkin, and BYU could not execute it. It was looked like it was Michael Hatch mistimed the jump a little bit on the quick serve, or on the quick set.
Yeah, you kind of wish that Daubert gave Durkin a little bit better pass. That pass was really over to the right side on the net, made it tough for him. 24-24. We're gonna have a timeout. Sean Olmstead not looking pleased. On the other side of things, Jay Hosick looking very pleased. And why wouldn't you be when you're the underdog, a big-time underdog, you're down 2-0, and you're fighting back, and you're tied 24-24 against the #1 team. Yeah, the Patriots definitely are doing a lot of good things, and the coach is definitely going to point that out. They're fighting, you know, they're competing, and that's all you can really want from a coach. On the BYU side, you know, Sean just, again, he expects a little bit better execution from some of his players, and it wasn't quite there. But he'll get them back in, you know, in the right frame of mind, and they'll come back out ready to play.
Your kill leaders on both teams, Tim Daubert with 10 kills and a .500 hitting percentage. For George Mason, Christian Malias with 13 kills and a .240 hitting percentage. Both players have been really impressive tonight and certainly fun to watch.
Yeah, Malias started out really hot. He was getting close to the 500. He was flirting with the 500 average, and now BYU's kind of getting in front of his face, and it's brought it kind of down, and they've kind of started going towards the middles and to Barnes, and they've been kind of doing well, slowing down Malias.
Cougars with the same lineup that started tonight's match. George Mason has made several substitutions, Kyle Barnes being one of them tonight. He's got the ball and will serve for the Patriots, all tied up 24-24 here in set number 3. Langlois fields that one. Back to Daubert, who gets it in the back line in the corner, going cross court. 25-24, another match point for BYU.
Another great set from Durkin. It was high and tight, and he put up a perfect ball for Daubert to go swing.
Durkin with the serve. To Malias. That ball is blocked and out of play.
Malias again coming over under the net.
25-25. George Mason isn't going away. Dom Edgley serving for the Patriots. Durkin with the set. Daubert on the attack. Defense of George Mason keeping it alive. Velez on the attack, and BYU blocks it right back in his face. 26-25. Match point once again for BYU.
Wow. Hatch on that ball came out, made sure that there was no hole in that block. Reaches back in, it goes straight down.
Brendan Sanders serving for the Cougars on match point. And that ball goes long. A service error for BYU. It's 26-26. BYU on the attack. Over to Langlois. That's blocked and down. And George Mason has taken a 1-point advantage. It is now set point for the Patriots. They lead 27-26, and we've got a timeout. If you're Sean Olmsted, what are you talking to your guys about?
You know, volleyball is a game of runs, and they just had theirs, and now it's our turn. We just got to side out, and then we'll go back. We just had a good defensive play, and we'll just do it again, but it all starts with a good side out, good pass, and then go from there.
On the other side of things, as we were talking about, you've got to be extremely pleased if you're first-year head coach Jay Hosick that his team is fighting back. And as we mentioned, by far, this has been the most competitive of the 3 sets that we've seen. In the first 2 sets, towards the end, George Mason kind of withered and went away. But this time they've kept fighting, and it seems like their confidence level is sky high right now.
Yeah, and the thing that I'm really impressed with is they're serving in these pressure situations. They're not just giving easy balls, and they're going back there and ripping them, and they're not missing. So credit to the coaching staff and to the players being able to not miss like they've been doing pretty much all match.
20 seconds left in the timeout. Both teams making their way back to the court. 27-26, George Mason leading BYU. It is set point for the Patriots. BYU, though, leads in the match 2-0.
Yeah, BYU being out hit in this set, 321-250.
Justin Coleman, the 6'3" freshman, serving for the Patriots. And a service error, something that has plagued this team all night long, comes back to bite them again, and we're all tied up at 27 apiece.
Looks like it was my turn to jinx them, and that was pretty pathetic.
Michael Hatch, the middle blocker on the serve. For to Coleman. Paco Velez on the kill, and he gets that to go down. Advantage back to George Mason, and set point for the Patriots.
Nice job by Paco, avoiding that block.
Christian Malias serving for George Mason. And another service error. BYU has stayed alive because of 2 service errors. We're now tied up 28-28.
When a team is out hitting you by almost 100 points and you're still in this, it's because they're making some big errors.
Daubert on the serve. Barnes on the attack. BYU able to dig that up. Langlois, what are they calling?
They called a double on the setter.
Wow.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Violation on BYU, double hit. That gives a point, and the advantage back to George Mason, 29-28. Set point for the Patriots. Collar on the serve, and a kill by Bryce Jarman. Excellent execution and quick reaction time by Jarman and the Cougars.
Love Bryce Jarman's energy out there after he got that kill. He turned to his teammate and was like, let's go, let's go.
Jake Langlois serving for BYU. Coleman on the set. And Dom Edgley gets it to go down. BYU just could not get to that to dig it up.
Edgley, their most efficient hitter, hitting over 600.
667. He's got 6 kills on the night for the Patriots. Paco Velez. Durkin. Over to Daubert, he gets it stuffed. And that's the set. Set number 3 goes the way of George Mason. They win 31-29, and now BYU's lead in the match is 2-1. We'll take a quick timeout. We'll come back with set number 4. You're watching college volleyball on the W.TV. Defensively, and gets on the board first, 1-0.
Sander comes down after that block, and on his face was a little bit of angry, so it's a good sign.
Durkin on the serve for BYU. Coleman with a little push shot there. Daubert over to Sander, who sends it over. Elias gets it stuffed and down. Hatch and Daubert combined on the block, and BYU goes up 2-0.
Both blockers do a nice job reaching back into the court.
Durkin with the serve. That ball just long, and a service error for Leo Durkin. 2-1 BYU.
Let's see how BYU responds after an error.
It's now 14 service errors for the Cougars. Almost an overpass there. Langlois on the attack. That ball somehow finds its way back over to BYU's side. Daubert sends it over. Coleman to Malias, and a dig by Langlois. Unfortunately, they can't keep it in play, and we're tied up 2-2.
Nice dig, just goes a little bit wide, a little far for Sander to get that ball, runs into the ref stand.
The setter, Justin Coleman, serving for George Mason. Durkin over to Langlois, who comes in from the back row for the kill. That was pretty.
Jake had a rough third set. I believe 3 of his 4 errors were in that set, so it's good to see him come back with a kill.
Before this game tonight, number 3 Loyola Chicago won in 5 sets over UC Irvine. That was an upset from number 3 over number 2. And a great block once again from Michael Hatch and Tim Daubert. BYU takes a 4-2 lead on some really good defense at the net.
BYU starting to see some tendencies from out of George Mason.
Sander for BYU on the serve. Paco Velez gets it blocked, but unfortunately out of bounds. Point for George Mason and the Patriots. 4-3 BYU here in set number 4.
Velez does a nice job getting it off high hands.
Christian Malias ready to serve with his team down a point. Nice pickup there by Sykes. Durkin with the back set over to Daubert. Able to dig it up. Velez with the roll shot. Great dig there by Sykes. Nice little rally going on here. Sykes with the set. Over to Daubert, off the hands of George Mason, and out of play, point BYU, 5-3 Cougars.
It's a nice job going high off that block. You'll see defensively in the men's game there, the middle back is on that end line because so many balls do go high off that block, but that one went over their head.
Michael Hatch serving for the Cougars. Coleman had to bring that one back in. Velez tries to send it over, and it's pushed back in his face. BYU back on the attack. Jake Langlois gets it in under the Patriot defender for the point. 6-3, BYU with a 3-point advantage.
Such a smart swing, coming in, sees there's 2 blocks, taking away a line seam, so he goes hard angle.
Just a little quick set there from George Mason. Collar gets the kill off BYU. It's 7-3.
Set was low. Number 12 had a tough time with it. Hits it too flat, goes out of bounds.
$7-3 here in set number 4. As I mentioned, it's the AVCA Showcase. BYU faced Loyola Chicago last night, won in 4 sets tonight. They're in set number 4. Looking to close things out. Similar fashion tonight. George Mason's not going away. After falling behind in the first 2 sets, going down 0-2, they fought back in set number 3. Showed a lot of poise, I thought, and their coach, Jay Hosick, first-year head coach, was extremely pleased with what he saw out of his guys.
Yeah, just watching him on the sideline, I was really impressed. He got into those players, you know, huddle almost, and was just telling them that is a nice play. That's a nice job. And he was cheering and clapping as hard as anyone. And so it's always good to see a coach's excitement. It kind of creates energy.
The good news for BYU, their hitting percentage is still above 300. They're at 356. For George Mason, they're at 157. Just so many errors, hitting errors. Talked about the service errors. 24 service errors for George Mason, 14 for BYU. The two kills leaders, Malias and Daubert. Daubert with 12 for BYU, Malias with 15 for the Patriots. Both have had an extremely good night so far. Michael Hatch serving for BYU. Langlois sit on the overpass, but it looks like they've got a net violation on George Mason. BYU goes up 5 at 8-3 here in set 4.
Setter's back row, going up high off his hand.
Almost ate up Barnes there. Elias gets it over. BYU not able to control that and get it over and hit the net. Jarman wasn't able to get that ball up.
Got to practice those plays. Not spend a lot of time, but a little bit. Got to get some experience, practice getting balls off the net.
Collar serving for George Mason. And a nice block there by Dom Edgley. And it looked like Paco Velez was in on that as well. To stuff Langlois, it's 8-5, BYU. A little mini run here by the Patriots. That ball goes long. You could hear the BYU players saying, out, out.
Matt Underwood screaming out.
Out, out.
This goes to number 11.
9-5. Daubert serving for the Cougars. There's that high jump serve. Nice pickup there. Velez gets it smashed back in his face. Cross court. BYU back over to Langlois. Great dig by Malias. Durkin with the set, the back set to Daubert, who gets the kill off the hands of George Mason. 10-5, that was pretty.
I just like that jump serve from topspin serve from Daubert a lot more. Seems like he's more efficient with it too.
Yeah, his service errors have been when he's not throwing it up as high. That little half jump serve. Went in with authority, didn't it? Edgley off the quick set from Coleman gets the kill. It's 10-6, George Mason.
Edgley doing a really nice job. When it's up and quick like that, it's tough to defend. Zero tempo in the air when the setter is setting it.
Velez with the service error. BYU regains its 5-point lead at 11-6 here in set number 4.
It's interesting, he's got the shoulder brace on his non-hitting shoulder, Velez.
Langlois serving for the Cougars. And Jarman on the overpass gets it to go down. 12-6, Cougars doubling up the Patriots.
Jarman right there. Typically you want to go up there and just swing and bounce it, but he did a nice job just pushing it down, knowing where the defense wasn't.
Langlois able to get the surface ace. 13-6. Langlois let out a yell after that one.
Get the assist from the net there. Nice serve by Jake.
Coleman on the set, cross court to Barnes. Hits that out. Hitting error on Kyle Barnes. Another point to BYU, an 8-point advantage at 14-6 here in set number 4. BYU leading the match 2-1.
That time, Jarman committed with the middle. Barnes had it wide open and he decided to try to go line.
Back row tip by Malias, but the BYU defense would have none of it. Pushed it right back onto the George Mason side of the net. It's now 15-6 BYU.
Durkin used all 6 foot, 6'1" of his frame to get that block.
Justin Coleman out, Brian Negron in for the Patriots. Sporting a nice stash, Negron.
Yeah, Negron, Edgley. It's not even November.
Sander sits that over. Barnes comes in on the attack and gets the kill. Nice execution there by George Mason, 15-7 Cougars.
Barnes went down line last time, got an error, so this time smartly goes angle for the kill.
Barnes on the serve, and that goes out. Another service error for the Patriots. Talked about this all night long. 27 service errors.
Wow. I don't know if I've seen 30 in a long time. Let's see if it gets there.
16-7 BYU. Jarman on the serve for BYU. And that ball just gets in. The Patriots were letting that one go, thinking it was going to be long, and it actually looked long at first, but it was able to sneak in and find its way fair.
It turned around, blowing bubbles, trying to blow that one out.
17-7 BYU here in set number 4. Velez on the attack. Great dig by Daubert. Sander with the set. The back row attack from Langlois. Malias gets the ball, and a great save there by Langlois. Defense by George Mason right at the net. Keeps it on BYU's side. And a kill by the Cougars. What a great rally. And George Mason is not liking that at all.
Coach wanted a lift. He has an argument. His hand was open, stayed on that hand. Probably a little bit longer than it's allowed, but credit to the Cougars for making that play.
18-8 now, BYU after the error on the serve by Bryce Jarman. BYU with a hefty 10-point lead right now. They also lead in the match 2-1, looking to close things out here over number 14, George Mason. Cougars, the #1 team. George Mason gets the service ace.
Wow. Don't see many of those.
That ball had a little bit something at the end. It took a dive right at the very end. It looked like a little bit of a breaking ball. Dom Edgley serving. Durkin on the set. A little tip shot there by Daubert. BYU resets. The back row attack from Langlois. It did hit off immediately. As soon as he hit that ball, he was immediately calling for the tip, which is exactly what happened. And he gets the kill. 19-9 BYU here in set 4.
Kohler was just reaching a little bit too high. Went off his hands.
Durkin on the serve. BYU on the overpass gets it to go down. Brendan Sander gets the point for the Cougars, 20-9. BYU looking to close things out here at home in set number 4. Final match here in the AVCA Showcase. Nice set there. Velez on the attack. BYU does get the block, but it goes out of play, and a point goes to the Patriots. Now 20-10 BYU.
Really liking Velez going off the blocks, not showing any fear.
Durkin ready for the set. Back row attack from Langlois, just a bit long. That'll be a point for George Mason.
Both blockers went up with the middle, and Langlois had an open net. Number 28.
Negron with the error. You may see 30 after all tonight.
Well, we've got 4 points. It's a 50% ratio, so
yeah, 50,
we might still see it.
You may still see it. 28 errors on the serve for George Mason, 15 for BYU. Tim Daubert leading the way with 13 kills offensively for the Cougars. Christian Malias for the Patriots, he has 16 kills. Paco Velez on the attack. BYU gets the block and the point.
Daubert comes straight down, just stares at the ball bounce, and then does a belated little cheer.
Kirill Mirtev in for the Cougars. He'll serve for BYU. 22-11, BYU here in set 4. Velez on the attack, and BYU's defense comes up strong again. Daubert and Rosh combine for the block. Rosh getting into the match.
You know, with Paco, it's high risk, high reward. Somebody that's not afraid of the block. A lot of times you're going to get blocked a lot, which the last 2 he has.
Elias, a little push shot there. Durkin with the set to Langlois. Off the block and down. Match point BYU, 24-11. The Cougars with the advantage, looking to end things right here.
BYU coming back with a vengeance.
Yeah, after a back and forth third set, the fourth set has been all BYU to this point. Elias on the attack. Nice dig there by Durkin. Mirtev on the set. And the attack there by Daubert is able to be dug up by George Mason. They stay alive, 24-12. Match point number 2 for BYU.
We may get to 29 missed serves, we'll see.
Elias serving, trying to keep his George Mason Patriots alive. Nice play by BYU, and Chang just sends it over. Free ball there for George Mason. Velez hits it long, out of play, and that's gonna do it. BYU wins set number 4, 25-12, and they win the match 3-1. For George Mason, it was ugly at times, but they showed a lot of heart there in set number 3 to force a 4th set. But this was really about the offensive prowess of BYU tonight as a team. Their hitting percentage was .356, and the play of Tim Daubert starting in place of Ben Hatch tonight, who did not play, by the way. Daubert had 13 kills. I thought he was fantastic tonight.
You know, he really was. This was his first match of the season. Everybody else's, it was their second. And so, you know, sometimes you look out there and say, how are they going to respond? And he emphatically says, I'm here. I'm ready, coach, whenever you need me. He did a phenomenal job at the service line. He did have a few errors, but he also had some really good, strong serves. But attacking the ball is where he really excelled tonight.
So if you're Coach Olmstead, you probably didn't want it to go to 4, but I've got to imagine you're pretty pleased overall. There's certainly some things to clean up, but you've got to be pretty pleased with the overall execution of your team tonight.
Oh yeah, you know, a lot of times as coaches, we like adversity, and that third set does a good job giving that adversity.
That's gonna do it. 25-12, you're finally in the 4th set. BYU beats George Mason 3-1 for Dave Height. For all of our crew here at the Smith Fieldhouse, I'm Jason Shepard. You've been watching men's college volleyball on the W.TV.